welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you stopped by today because today we are actually going to be working on a commission piece that I've had for quite a while. I've been working on it off to the side with other projects and it's finally done and I get to show it to you guys. So this piece is supposed to be kind of a geode themed dragon. The idea is that it could tuck its wings around itself and look like a rock and then open up and has all these crystals in it. Anyways, let's get started. Now, I didn't do a time lapse of drawing up these sketches for the person who commissioned me, but I figured I'd show them off, just kind of get a rough idea of what I usually send to my customers. This person wasn't quite sure if they wanted a wyvern or drake style body, so I had just a little bit of an alteration there, and then kind of a little separate drawing focusing more on the wings. We also weren't sure if we were going to go with a clear crystal or an amethyst color. In the end, they really liked the purple, so we went with that. And then we also went with the drake style body. Anyways, what we're going to work on now are going to be the clay pieces. For now, I'm going to focus on the clay head, and then we'll move on to the feet. So for the clay head, I have my tin foil connected to a glass container, and this is mainly just so I have something to hold on to and I don't have to put my fingers directly into the clay. So I'm going to roll out some clay, lay it over my tin foil, and get a basic shape figured out real quick. Once I have my basic shape laid out, I'm then going to start on working on the eyeballs. So for the eyeballs themselves, I'm going to be using just some small beads. This head is pretty tiny, so I can't really use the size of glass eyes I like to use, but the beads work really well for this. And then I'm just going to start building up clay underneath and above these to make the eyelids and just adjust the shape to go with the eyeballs. Once I have the eyes in place, I'm then going to figure out where I want to add the nostrils and the mouth. So I'm just going to roughly sketch out where I want both of those to go, and then I can use my tools to clean up and refine the shape of both of them. After that, I'm going to add a bit of a texture to the face so it looks more like a gravelly texture, similar to a rock or something. And then I have some pretty large scales that I want to put going down the back of the dragon that will also be on top of the head. So I'm going to start layering these, and then I'll also throw on a gravelly texture to these as well. Once I'm happy with how the face looks, I'm then going to put it in the oven to bake for about 40 to 55 minutes at 275 Fahrenheit. While that's baking, I'm going to start working on the clay feet. So for the clay feet, I've got some wire frames set up for them. This will give them some support, that way we have something to build the clay off of. And what I like to do with the claws is actually make them out of epoxy clay because it's a little bit more sturdy and claws tend to be very fragile at the end of the toes. So I'm going to add those claws, and then these are going to have to cure. So once they're done curing, we can work more on the feet. So to cover up the wire frames, I'm going to roll out a bunch of clay into just little strips. I'm going to cut them to fit, and then we're going to start adding this clay to the wires for each toe. So I'm going to work from the back, so basically the bottom of the foot I'm going to add clay to, and then we'll kind of wrap it around and blend everything together once we have the bottom section of the foot covered. Once the bottom of the foot is completely covered and blended together, I'm going to start working on the top. So I'm going to start at the more palm section and I'm going to cover that in clay and get that shaped and blended together. And then for the tops of the toes, I'm going to be adding scales. So I'm just going to make a bunch of little balls of clay and we're going to layer them going up each toe. So I'm going to start at the claw and just work my way up. We can also add more clay scales to the more palm section of the foot once we get there. And then just like the face, I'm going to add a rocky texture to everything, and then we can put these in the oven to bake as well. They should bake roughly about the same time, 40 to 55 minutes at 275 Fahrenheit. And then once everything is out of the oven and has cooled to touch, the painting will be pretty simple because we're mainly just trying to make everything look like rocks. So technically I'm really just using white and black and mixing it to get different levels of white, black, and gray. So I'm going to get a basic gray laid out first, and then I can add shadows and highlights to it and just keep adjusting it until it basically looks as rocky as possible. The only other colors that I'm really going to be working with are for like the eyes. I'm going to be painting those, that way they kind of stand out and match a little bit better with the amethyst. And then for the claws, I'm going to make those kind of a darker color, but I'm not going completely black with them. Once I'm done painting the clay pieces, I'm then going to move on to painting the fabric. Now I forgot to show the full body pattern with this piece, but you can see majority of it on the pieces and stuff, but if you watch any of my basic dragon bodies, it's pretty much that. But yeah, I have a suede fabric, it's just a white, and I'm going to use my acrylics to get it more gray and splotchy and, again, more like gravelly in appearance. I'll have to obviously let all of this dry, but once it's dried, I can then cut out my fabric pieces. I left everything attached because it's just easier, and then I can start sewing things together. I think the first thing that I want to work on are going to be the wings. So the outer section is going to be our gray suede fabric, but the inner section is going to be like a crystally geode texture, like the inside of one. So I at first was going to use a fur fabric, but then I realized I had this one kind of ribbon looking fabric and I figured it would work a lot better for that crystal texture. So I'm going to basically sew these together real quick, flip them right side out, and then figure out where the arm section of the wing is, and I'm also going to sew that in and stuff it. I'm going to add both wings to a set of wires, that way they'll be poseable. We're going to probably have to reinforce these when we add them to the body, but for now I'm just starting off with a basic wire frame, and then we're going to start adding our crystals. So I have these really pretty purple crystals that I kind of made into like clusters, and I'm going to glue them throughout the fabric of the underside of the wing. Once I have those placed, I'm also going to take some smaller glass pieces, and I'm going to kind of make extra bits here and there that'll look like smaller crystal. Now with this, I want to stay very random and organic feeling, but I also want to make sure that they're evenly dispersed through the wings. That way one isn't heavier than the other. And then to make our wings look even glitterier, I'm gonna use glitter. So I picked a nice purple that I figured would go well with the other purples, and I'm just gonna add glue kind of throughout the fabric and the crystals. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna sprinkle my glitter over everything, let it dry, and then brush away the excess glitter that didn't stick to the glue. Once I'm done with the wings, I'm going to move on to the rest of the body. So I'm going to start with the sides of the body, and what we need to do is add the inside section of the leg to the leg section that is already on the side of the body. So I'm going to kind of, basically I'm going to sketch out where I need to split the fabric a little bit, and then I'm going to cut that, and then we're going to sew these two pieces of fabric together. Now I'm only going to be sewing down the front section of the leg. I'll leave the back open for when we add everything together on the wire frame. After that, I'm going to take the fabric for the belly. The belly fabric is going to be the same fabric as the inside section of the wings. And then for the front legs, I have an inside section and an outside section, and just kind of similar to the back legs, we're going to sew down the front to connect them. Now I'm not going to add these to the fabric body just yet. I'm going to wait till we have it on the wire frame, including the fabric for the back of the neck, which will also go in between the two wings. Okay, so I think we're pretty much ready to start adding everything to the wireframe. For this, I've left it pretty simple. I didn't really need to enforce it too much, but I did add a few extra wires to the wireframe for the wing section, not just the body. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the fabric for the body and I'm going to run it over the wireframe. I have holes cut for the wires for the legs. I'm just going to kind of slide it over. Then I'm going to take our clay head and I'm going to glue it to the wire for the neck. We can then take the fabric for the neck, glue it around the base of the head, and then the very back section of the head, the fabric doesn't reach. That's where we're going to add the back section fabric. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add the wings to the wireframe as well. So I'm going to take the wireframe that is inside of the wings and we're going to wrap it all together. And then we can continue sewing down the rest of the dragon and closing everything up and stuffing it. Once I'm done with the body and I've gotten to the very end of the tail, I'm going to go back and I'm going to start working on the back legs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the wires to the length that I need, and then we're going to add the clay back legs to the wire frame. So the wire sticking out of the back of those, I'm going to wrap everything together, and then we can take the fabric for the legs and we can glue it around the bases, kind of around the ankles of the feet. Once that's dried, we can start stuffing and closing up the back legs. Once we're done with the back legs, we're going to move on to working on the front legs. So I'm going to take the fabric for the front legs and I'm going to figure out how I want them placed. Basically where the wire is sticking out of the body, we're going to sew around that so that the wire will be inside of the legs. Then we're going to take our clay feet, attach them to the wire frame sections, and then we're going to start gluing the fabric around the wrists and then stuffing and closing up those legs. Once we have the body put together, I'm then going to use my needle and thread and kind of adjust the shape here and there. I'm just going to add some extra stitchings to kind of pull in the body in different areas so it's not so plump and round and it just has a bit more definition. Then what I want to do is I want to finish the scales going down the back of the dragon. I figured the easiest way to do this was to make them out of felt, and I had a really nice gray, kind of grainy colored felt. So I've cut a bunch of those to fit, and I'm just going to start stitching them in place, covering up the back of the dragon until I get to the back of the head. And then after we're done with the back of the dragon, I'm going to flip him over and we're going to start adding crystals to his belly, just like we did with the wings. So we'll end up doing the crystals and the pieces of glass, and then we'll also do the glitter. And then lastly, I'm going to go over the gray sections of his body and make it look a little bit more rocky and kind of add a few cracks and different things here. We might add some veins of purple and glitter. That way it looks like the amethyst is kind of cracking throughout his body and just kind of make him look a little bit more like a stone. Okay guys, and here is our finished piece. You can see he's very rocky in texture other than like under the wings and his belly. I think he came out really good. The customer is really happy and we should be mailing him off pretty soon. I just got to get him all boxed up. Also, I didn't show it because we did do a little bit of change. They wanted more crystal on the end of the tail, so we added that. Now obviously because this was a commission, he's not for sale, but I have a ton of different art dolls on my website right now, and I currently have a sale going on until the end of August, so just kind of check that out. It's a 50% off sale. I've got the code on the website and everything, so you just need to follow the link. And then while you're down in the description, you'll see a bunch of other links to art supplies and stuff. These I like to use to make my art dolls, so if you're just curious and want to kind of click through them, you can do that, or you can even try out some of the materials. Now, if you do buy anything through these links, it is affiliated, so that means basically it'll support the channel if you buy anything through those links. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, to all that fun stuff, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!